Welcome back to part 2 of our Heart Clover exercise, where we're looking at anchor points, and we're going to continue with our clover in this part. All right, so I'm going to make a new page. There's the icon to create a new page, and I'll double click on it, and I'll call it clover, because it's sort of like a clover. It's actually kind of like a SpongeBob flower on the ocean bottom. And again, you might have done this before in the other class. And we're going to make it out of a square. So I'm going to go here and make a rectangle, and just draw any size rectangle, just nice and big. And then I'm going to go in here and double click and put 6 and hit tab and make it 6 again. Make sure that this highlights when you hit tab, and then I'll put 6 and I'll hit enter. So there's my 6 by 6 rectangle, and I'll align it middle, I'll align it center. And remember what we have to do next if we want to mess with the anchor points. Now these are not anchor points. We have to use the squiggle or the convert to path. Now it's a path. And I'm going to go back to my sub select tool. Now there's 4 anchor points, and they're all corner points because there's no handles. If you click on one, it's saying that that's a straight line. Now remember, this one and this one, the alternate ones, are corner points, and this one are curve points. So right now they're just straight line segments connected by anchor points, no handles. Now what I'm going to do is add 4 more points in the middle. I'm going to click here. Now one thing just to be aware of, and this is actually really cool that it does this, but also it could be confusing. If you hover over here, you can actually bend the path and it'll make handles. Even though it's saying, corner point, straight point, it's actually doing that. That's really cool that it does that, but we don't want to do that right now. All I want to do is just add a point. I'm just going to click here. So just click and add a point. It should be a straight line point, and it's a joint anchor point as they call it. And then add another one here. Just go here and click. Don't drag. Go here and click, and go here and click. So now we have 8 anchor points. And remember, you could highlight anchor points all together. You could drag through them. You can shift click on anchor points, whatever you need. But I'm just going to bring these 4 anchor points in. Not all the way to the center. That's all the way to the center. Just close to the center. We're going to make like a star shape. We're going to bring them in there. Kind of like the Xbox thing, I guess, a little bit. And bring this in here and bring that in there. So we're making a star shape now that we have 8 anchor points. And they're all straight line anchor points. Now what we're going to do is we're going to convert these to mirrored. We're going to make them curves, but we're also going to use the mirrored version of the curve so that the handles coming out will pull the same distance on either side. So if I go here and I make it a mirrored, I could drag on one side, and notice I'm dragging in a 45-degree angle. It pulls out a little more. I'm just making kind of the petal of this clover a little wider, but the other side's going the same distance. Now an Illustrator wouldn't do that. So I'll click here, and again, I'm making it mirrored. You could hover over it to make sure it's mirrored, and then just pull this out a little more. And I'm just making a clover shape. I'm going here, mirrored, stretch it out, and then the last one up here, the last corner point, I'm making it mirrored, and I'm stretching it out. Now what we have is we have curve points, because remember, curve points work like a seesaw. Regardless if they're mirrored or asymmetric, they work like a seesaw, so that's a curve point. So we have 4 curve points. They make curves, smooth transitions, and these are corner points in here. You can see they're still called straight, and there's no smooth change of direction in here. It's very harsh. Now what you could do is click on these middle ones, and you could even try doing them all at once. You could select one and then hold your shift key and select that one, select that one, select that one. Now all 4 are selected. I think you could also drag through them. Let me try. Yeah, you could drag through them as well. And now all 4 of those are selected, and I'm going to make them all mirrored. Now it goes all at one time, and it's a little much, so I'm going to have to click off, and I'm just going to edit each one. And I'm just going to pull it in a little bit. And if they're mirrored, they come in really nicely. And I'll go here and pull them in. And I'll go to this one and pull it in, straighten it a little bit. And like I said, they kind of look like the things on the bottom of the ocean with SpongeBob, those little flower things that you might see down there. So, and this looks a little, they're not perfect here. It looks like it changed the petals a little bit. But it's this little propeller kind of looking clover we have here. And I'm going to go back to my pointer now. And I'm just going to give it a gradient, and I'll give it like a lighter green or maybe a yellow in the middle and green on the outside. I'll make sure I change it to a radial gradient, and it goes black to white. So on the inner side, I'll click on that and make that yellow. And then on the outer side, I'll click on that. Now be careful not to click next to that because it'll make a new color. If you move this, you shouldn't see any other sliders there. There should only be one. And I'm going to click on this green, and then I'm going to make it darker. I'll go down here a little further and make it a darker green. And I'm going to leave the gradient in the middle right now. Now, one last thing I'll do, just to show you that you can do this. I'm actually done with it. But one thing that you can do, that I'll just show you, is click off here, select this with your regular pointer, not your sub-select anymore. And I'm going to go to my transform palette. And now I have some values in here. Now all these things are popping up, they're annoying. But what I'm going to do is, I tried it before, so that's why it's still saying 60%. But if you double click in here, you can make this 60, and double click here and make it 60. Now mine are already 60, I'm just showing you how to do it. And make that 60. And then make sure that the reference point in the middle here says transdorm origin. I don't know if that's a misspelling. It's transdorm origin. I don't know what that means. I assume that it's spelled wrong. But anyway, it's in the middle. And what I want to do is scale it to the middle. Now they have an apply button, so it won't do anything until you hit the apply button. And what it'll do is it'll scale this. Now I want to scale a copy. Now you could duplicate it, but you can actually go in here, double click here and put in 1. And then hit apply, and what it's going to do, it's going to make a scaled copy that's 60% of the original size. So I'll hit apply, and there it is. It made a copy. And with this copy here, I'm gonna click off, and then go in my color fill. Make sure I still have that selected. Go in my color fill, and instead of being green to yellow, I'm gonna go up here, click on where the dark green is, and just make it pink. And just do that. And what I'm going to do is also rotate it, and I'm going to try to rotate it the same way. So again, to make this go away, just click on the page and then click back on this thing. Now I'm going to rotate this, and I'm going to try using the transform palette. And the reason I'm doing that is because these things are anchored to that end. So sometimes they don't rotate the way you want. So I'm going to use the transform palette. And now you got to be careful here because I have to take the scale away. So I have to double click here. I need to check if there's a reset button because we need to reset this for some reason. I wonder if there's a reset button. Not that I see. I'll have to check if there's a reset button because it seems like you should be able to reset everything back to 0. Because I'm going to put this at 100 and I'll hit tab and I'll put that at 100 because I don't want to scale this one anymore. I'll put that at 100 and I don't want to copy, so I have to put that at 0. Like I said, I wish there was a reset button here. So I'm putting that back at 0, meaning I'm not going to make a copy of it and I'm not going to scale it. But what I'm going to do is I'll rotate it, and I'll just put in 45. I'm going to rotate it 45 degrees. So I'm just going to double click in here and put 45, and then I'll hit apply. And there it is. It rotated at 45 degrees. And if you wanted to put it behind the other one, you could go here and do send to back or send backwards, and you have it back there. And that's all I really wanted to do. I know that doesn't look that great. And if you wanted to put a drop shadow on here, just click on here, go down here to drop shadow, and it's going in pixels. I usually like to do 10, 10, 10, and then 50. So 10 pixels, 10 pixels. The blur is 10 pixels, and the opacity is 50. So if you double click here and just do 10 and hit tab, 10 and hit tab, 10 and hit tab, and then make that 50% so it lightens up the shadows a little. Then we have this little shadow here. And I don't know, now I can't really see that thing since I put it behind. Maybe I should bring it forward so I could at least see it. And I'll bring it forward. I'll just use this button here. And I still have a shadow behind that, and maybe I could throw a shadow on here. We'll have to see if there's ways to apply the same effect. I think you could copy effects from one to the other. But I'll put a blur on here too. So I'll go here and I'll put a drop shadow on this one too. So I'll just click on drop shadow. This one, maybe I'll make it smaller. Maybe I'll do 5, 5, 5, and also 50, and I'll hit enter, and there it is. So that's all I wanted to do here. And again, the whole purpose of this is just to go over the anchor points. Get familiar with curve points and corner points. Those are the two types, whether they're mirrored or whether they're asymmetric or whether they have straight line anchor points with no handles or whether they have handles that work like a wedge over here. Remember the anchor points that we were talking about? This is a corner point because they're disconnected This is a corner point because they're disconnected. You can have corner points. I could go here and make it a straight line. That's a corner point because there's no handles at all. I'll undo that because I'll leave it the way it was. And then these are curve points. They're always curve points when they work like a seesaw. The only way they're going to be a curve point is if they work like a seesaw. Sometimes the handles can be brought in so tight that it's hard to see, and they almost look like corner points. But for what we're doing, if they work like a seesaw, it's a curve point. If they don't, either they have no handles or the handles work independently, it's a corner point. So that's a heart, that's a clover, and our little weird design here didn't come out as nice as I thought. But we're just going to save it. And then make sure when you save it, make sure you watch it sync, make sure it's saved, make sure there's no asterisk anymore. And then what you're going to do is you're going to share it, and you're going to copy this link, and you're going to go to My Warren. When you come to My Warren and you come to coursework, you're going to look for Unit 5 and look for the Heart Clover and click on it, add a comment, insert a link, paste your link, make sure you change this to new window, hit OK, and hit save. And that's all you have to do. You could always click on it to check it to see how it looks. And that's all you have to do for this one. And again, this is just a practice just to go over anchor points. We're going to do some more where we start manipulating anchor points and manipulating paths a little bit more. But that's Heart Clover Exercise 5.